Good afternoon, good evening for everyone joining us. My name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder at Seed Global Education. We're thrilled to have this session here today in partnership with NYU Tandon School of Engineering. We're going to wait for a few minutes before we start with anything. Several of you are just joining in. Um, Today the goal is we're going to talk a little bit about how supply chain is getting disrupted and how modern technologies are changing the view of supply chain. So if you are here to learn more about that, you're going to be in really good hands with Professor Tom Mazzone. We'll go back to that in a few minutes as several of you join in. If I can just request of you in the chat box at the bottom of your screen, if you can message which city are you joining in from today. So just mention the name of the city and country that you're coming in from. We'd love to just get a sense of what crowd we have here today. We've got folks from India, from Chennai, from Delhi, folks from Nairobi. Lovely to have all of you here from Bangalore, from Lagos, from Bikaner. Lovely to see you here as well, Rahul. Um, Great. Several of you joining in. Please keep posting the city, Kurukshetra, a wide range of places that people are joining in from. And I'm excited because you're going to learn about something that truly is transforming how today every industry that's impacted by supply chain is going to change as well. So great to see all of you here. Um, Once again, we've got someone from Paris joining in as well. Once again, my name is Paras Fatnani. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer and co-founder at Seed Global Education. Today's session is around digital supply chain transformation and the role of advanced technologies with that. In today's time where competitive advantage of how an organization is using supply chain is evolving so rapidly, the use of technology and how one can harness that to provide growth is becoming an extremely important factor. I've got it here today with myself, Professor Tom Mazzone, who's the industry professor in technology management and innovation at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. And I've also got Carrie Bowling, who's the senior assistant director of graduate marketing and recruitment at the Tandon School of Engineering as well. So what's going to happen next is you're going to hear a little bit from Professor Tom. But before we do that, I'm going to bring up a quick poll. Um, if you can reply to the poll, it should be on your screen in just a second. Which aspect of the global supply chain do you find most challenging or interesting? Is it the managing of uncertainty and disruptions? Is it around coordinating across countries and cultures that excites you? Is it using data to drive faster decisions that you find interesting? Is it balancing cost, speed, and sustainability that may be a potential challenge? Or is it understanding the end-to-end supply chain visibility that's of value to you? So just on your screen, if you can take a quick minute to reply to the poll that's come up, what aspect of global supply chains do you find most challenging or interesting? Managing uncertainty and disruptions, coordinating across cultures and countries, using data to drive more informed decisions, balancing cost, speed, and sustainability, or understanding the end to end supply chain. So we'll keep the poll open just for another 10 to 15 seconds. For folks that are just joining in, welcome to today's session. If you can take a quick second to reply to the poll that you see on your screen before we get started with the session, what aspect of global supply chains do you find most interesting or challenging? We'll give it another 5 or 10 seconds before we close out. Okay, for the folks that are still joining, and there's a large number of you that have come in just the last minute or so. We're doing a quick poll, which is just to get an understanding of what aspect of the global supply chains do you find most interesting or challenging? Is it around managing uncertainty and disruptions, coordinating across countries and cultures, using data to find better decisions, balancing cost, speed, and sustainability, or end-to-end supply chain visibility? All right, with that, we're gonna close the poll now. Very interesting results. 27% of people have said that using data to drive faster decisions is an interesting aspect that they would or interesting or challenging aspect that they would like to think more about. Balancing cost, speed, and sustainability is second in line, followed very closely by managing uncertainty and disruptions as well as coordinating across cultures and countries. So great. Thank you all for engaging with that poll with us here today. I'm going to pass over to Professor Tom to talk to us a little bit about what his ideology and thoughts around how this space can get revolutionized further as well. Tom?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hi, everybody. My name is Tom Mazzone. Let me get my presentation up. And I'd like to talk to you today about the role of advanced technologies in digital supply chain transformation. This will be an introduction to the work we've been doing here at NYU in this space. And this will eventually lead into how this translates into the course I teach and how we integrate what we learn here and what we've learned at NYU in the course to help you take what you've learned and hopefully make a difference in the world with it. So again, my name is Tom Mazzone. I am an industry professor at
Tom, your
NYU.
screen's not
And
shared if
oh,
you're
it's
look.
not?
No.
Oh, sorry. One second. Where am I?
And while Tom brings up his presentation, just a quick note for all the attendees here today. As you hear Tom and later on from Carrie as well, if you have any questions, there's the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. Please keep your questions there. Once we come back after both the presentations, we'll answer everything that we can as well. So please, just any questions in the Q&A section. We're going to close the chat functionality now for the time of the presentation. Tom, back to you.
You can see it now, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, good morning, good evening from wherever you are. I'm in New Zealand right now, and it's 3:30 in the morning, so that's probably why I thought I was sharing but wasn't. Right. Okay, so who am I? I am an industry professor and the program director of industrial engineering at NYU. I've been teaching at NYU now about 25 years, about only full-time about 8. I've spent most of my life in the industry. I've had senior roles at Ernst & Young, A.T. Kearney, Fidelity Investments, Royal Bank of Scotland, and most of my life has been in managing large-scale technology-based organizational transformations, both in connecting the operations world with marketing and sales, and in connecting operations with supply chains. And that's really an area of interest and expertise that I have is in supply chains generally, but also in how advanced technologies are really impacting them and transforming them. So we have advanced technologies, and we'll spend some time talking about those individually. We have supply chains, and in the end, they come together and results in what we're calling digital transformation. And what does that really mean? Well, at some level, it's somewhat obvious: efficiency, transparency, resilience are the buzzwords, but really, what does that mean? And that's something we really want to dive into today. This is obviously an important area. I think most of you know that supply chains are important. I can tell you from my experience in advising students that there are many jobs in this space, and it's clear that this is an important topic and in the news a lot. And when you look at the data, a lot of money is being spent in this space, and more is going to be spent. So the more we know about it, the better we are. This is a place of importance to companies. This is a place that a lot of attention is going to be placed. And this is going to be a place, frankly, that you'll be impacted by, regardless of your position. A lot of the roles that I had in transformation was really serving as the person who was in the middle being the person kind of organizing things, who worked with the operations supply chain leaders, who work with the technology teams, who worked with the marketing and salespeople to make it all come together. I wasn't a supply chain manager, and I think that's important because I think for most of you, you probably won't be a supply chain manager in the end, but supply chains will impact every aspect of your business. You can imagine that if you're a product marketing lead, that if you don't understand supply chains, you're going to be less effective. And so I know that many of you are probably interested in that space. If you're interested in startups, it's the same thing. If you don't understand supply chain, which is really fundamentally about how do we collaborate with others to design, develop, and deliver goods and services, then you're really going to be falling behind. So I really see supply chains as something of importance for everyone, something that you'll all be impacted by. It doesn't do you much good to be, the smartest person in the room with the best ideas if you don't really know how to implement. And I can tell you from personal experience, of the many large-scale transformations that I managed, that many of those transformations were in trouble until I got there, and that was mainly because you can't really dictate changes to people. You really need to partner with them, and unless you understand how things operate, then you can't really be an effective partner. And part of what I want to talk about today is how to think about supply chains in a way that I think will help. So, the kind of paradox of technology today is that it's both creating the need and enabling the ability to deal with the need that it's creating. Okay, so driving the need, this expansion in capabilities of digital technologies has not only obviously created exponential data growth opportunities, but really has fundamentally changed the markets that we operate in. It changes it at both ends. The front end, which is the interaction between us and the customer, gives us access to more customers. I mean, it goes without saying that we're in a global economy, and that you can be a company in any part of the world and access customers in any part of the world. And the same is true for the people you partner with to deliver those goods and services. They're everywhere, and you can access them everywhere, which is great. But that also makes the world a little bit complex, and really makes it important to innovate and to stay ahead. The good news is that the same technologies that are creating all of this complexity are also the ones that can help us. So these advanced digital tools really create the opportunity, let's call it, for seamless connectivity and greater resilience. The ability to integrate the various systems into platforms, the ability to have real-time communications, and so on, really create new possibilities. But they really demand a new approach to the way we think about organizations in general and supply chains specifically. So the first, and not the most important, but the first place to think and look is in this movement from linear chains to interconnected systems. So most people think of supply chains as a kind of straight line, let's call it. We have a customer who wants to buy something from us. So customer, salesperson generates an order that comes into the business. That generates us in a linear fashion to make something and to coordinate with suppliers to get us something. The reality is that we work in these large interconnected systems that are constantly changing and moving and very dynamic. Customers are shifting. What customers want are shifting. The people we partner with are many and diverse, and not always the same, depending on either the type of service or product or the specific aspect of that product or service that's needed at the moment for the customer. So again, we've talked about globalization and complexity. More people that we have to work with, both at the front end and the back end. Um, in this new world, customers really have much higher expectations for us. They expect speed. They expect visibility or transparency. They expect personalization, and along with transparency, they expect to know where things are coming from, so they can make, the right sort of decisions that are consistent with their own, belief systems. Um, Additionally, with all this, technology, there's a lot of disruption. The technology is a great thing for us. It gives us access to the world. It gives us access to customers that we didn't have before. But on the same hand, so does everyone else get the access. So there's a lot of players that are coming in and coming out, and it creates a lot of disruption and volatility. And certainly, again, as I mentioned earlier, sustainability is important. With all this, transparency, um, people are expecting more from the people who supply them with goods and services. Um, and so, anyways, we're in this, you know, uh, exciting new world that's largely been driven by these advanced technologies, which are largely digital in nature, meaning the ability to convert physical things, objects, movements of objects into data. Okay, so digital, at its simplest, just means the ability to codify things in data, and then be able to use systems that can analyze, manipulate data, and share it to make better decisions. So, what does it mean? And this is really starting to get into the way we need to think about um, these technologies and the impact they have on supply chains or just organizations in general. And again, as I just pointed out, it's more than just simply a conversion of an analog process to digital, or said differently, it's more than just simply implementing a system that mimics what's being done today. As I've alluded to earlier when discussing my past, I've spent most of my life in this space. Um, Not only have I run large projects, in fact, I've probably run the three largest projects in Fidelity Investments history, but I've also built um, project teams. I created the business transformation and continuous improvement team at Royal Bank of Scotland. I had 50 consultants there. And in all cases, most of what I worked on was this, you know, the transformation, let's call it, of organizations based on advanced technologies. And in almost all cases, um, the uh, the request, let's call it, from the senior team was somewhat basic and misguided, which is we need a system to make things better. And in their mind, what that meant was the things we're doing are good, um, just make them a little bit better. And what we'll talk about here is that it does do that, which is good, but much more than that. Um, if you look at the first and visibility, this ability to kind of see into to the larger system, not only can enhance existing ways of doing business, but really it opens up new possibilities, and that's something we'll talk about in a little bit when we get into the specific technologies and how they impact the business. Data-driven intelligence. It's not just simply using data in traditional ways to forecast and generate contracts, but to move really from a kind of reactive, um, kind of mindset to one that is not only proactive but predictive and allows us to better manage the demand that's coming in. Hyper automation at some level goes without saying, but I think, again, as we'll see in a little bit, it's not just simply paving the cow path, as we say, or um, you know, coding existing processes with digital technologies, but rethinking how the capabilities of automating tasks and connecting them give us more possibilities in partnering with suppliers and partnering with our customers, which gets at the network interconnectedness. Again, the ability to connect with more and more people is a great thing. The ability to share data across larger networks is a great thing, but it also, in many cases, is a very difficult one. One of the projects I managed at Fidelity was the CRM system, or Customer Relationship Management System, which is effectively a large enterprise database management project. For any of you that know anything about customer relationship management, it's basically about how do we create the ability to access data from across the enterprise and make it seamless to our customers that no matter how they come into the business, we know them and can help them. And that is much more difficult than you could possibly imagine. When you think about all the different groups that have data and how to collaborate on sharing that data. And so again, it's not just simply we have data, now let's share it. It's about how do we get organizations to agree on what the data, how the data is codified, where it's stored, how it's accessed, how it's shared, and what we do with it. This all leads to this, again, kind of unprecedented agility and responsiveness capability. The people who master this are able to adapt quickly. One example to make a point, Procter& Gamble, I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They're a large US-based company that primarily deals in all kinds of home and health products. They've really mastered digital supply chain transformation, and they've moved from an old model of forecast, plan, contract, hold people accountable to contracts on long-term forecasts, to one that's based on, in many cases, intraday forecasting and adjustments in partnership with literally thousands of supply chain partners. And the question is, how do you do that? And we'll dive into that a little bit here. So, as basically alluded to, there's both an urgency and a promise here. Obviously, we've talked about competitive advantage. I would argue at some level that there is minimally a need just to stay in the game. So, understanding what we're talking about today certainly will give you an advantage. And I think the way we're going to talk about it today will make that more obvious. But at some level, if you don't understand this, you're not even in the game. Resilience. We all know that supply chains can be risky. The global nature of them is good, but also creates kinds of issues that can make them somewhat fragile. And so, how do we use these technologies in a way that actually makes them less fragile and more resilient? Related to that, how does it reduce risk? Importantly, sustainability. So, how do we create and manage a multi-tier supply chains, meaning, suppliers who are being supplied by other people or being supplied by other people, so many stages removed, let's say, from the source producers. If there's an expectation at the front end that the thing we make in the end or the thing we deliver in the end has, considerations of the environment and the people who are making it, then how can we be sure that through this vast network of interdependent partners that those goals are being met? Ensure that the customer is always first. They don't get lost in the network. I'm sure all of us have experiences of working with companies on the good and bad side of this. The good side, you call them up, you get an answer quickly. The bad side, you call them up and you feel like you're in an endless loop of conversations that never really seems to resolve anything. That can happen when you're in these large-scale networks. And finally, we don't want to lose the need to remain streamlined and cost-efficient. Again, that can get very complicated when you get these large supply chains, and it's more than simply just writing a contract that you enforce. It's the way you partner with people. So that really requires you to rethink things, to basically reframe, let's call it, the goal of supply chains. You've heard a lot about Industry 4.0, and what does that really mean? Just a bit of a refresher here, which I think is important to kind of establish the mindset we need to think about what we're going to talk about in a few minutes here. Industry 2.0 was really um, the view of the world, let's say, post um, uh, post-industrial revolution. We moved away from farms and craft-based industries. Industry 1.0, okay, large-scale opportunities in factories and communication through telegraphs and telephones and transportation with railroads and all that. Industry 1.0. Industry 2.0 is let's call it the dawn of the computer age, okay, and that was at some level dominated by, I'll call it, a mindset which was based in classical economics, okay, and that is, market's clear, the supply curve and the demand curve ultimately meet in the middle. There was a understanding, let's call it, then that I think still permeates the mindset today, which is, I think, dictating at some level how people use these technologies and using them the wrong way. And that is, we can accurately predict the future. Okay, meaning, with enough data, right, we can tell who's going to buy something and more or less when. Okay, and that we can work independently of each other. We all have access to the same information. We all have what they call perfect information, meaning all the information that's needed to make decisions is equally available to everyone, and we all have unbounded rationality, as they would say in economic terms, which means the ability to actually process all that information. Okay, the reality is, as we all know, that we don't have unbounded rationality, meaning it's almost impossible for any one of us to really absorb all this information, and we certainly don't have perfect information, which means all the information that's out there doesn't really feel available to us, okay? But that's sort of the problem in a way, which really sets up the Industry 4.0 mindset requirement, okay? Um, the Industry 2.0 mindset at some level says, especially when it comes to supply chains, the value we generate is cost-based. Supply chains are, unimportant. They're just the supply of the raw materials. Let's keep the cost down. With all this technology, we can finally, achieve perfect information. We can process more and more information. So all the information that's available in the world is now we can get to, and unbounded rationality has been saved because these computer systems can be our brains and they can process everything. Okay, the reality is, okay, that even with all this information and all this capability, we can't know the future. Okay, we can't plan all future events, which means we need to work collaboratively, and working collaboratively is not simply saying, here's the contract or here's the agreement, go execute. It's a kind of shared agreement that we will work collaboratively and dynamically to provide value to our customers. And this is where also things change. The Industry 2.0 mindset is more one grounded in pure competition, meaning, it's a competitive environment and the idea is to remain competitive. As Peter Thiel once famously said, competition is for losers. And what he meant by that was, being in a purely competitive market means that your basis for competition is feature parity, let's call it. And the way you make money is by being cheaper, which is a zero-sum, doom circle into constant price adjustments downward and constant pressure on your organization and your people to be cheaper. The beauty of the Industry 4.0 mindset is this idea of monopoly competition, this idea of partnership where value is constantly created in a way that you are effectively a monopoly. And time and value is time based. And what does time based mean? It means faster on taking an idea and turning into a product, faster on getting that product to the market, faster on dealing with questions or issues when they come up. Um, Monopoly competition, to give you an example to make the point, I'm an Apple user. Okay, so I use, I've got the phone, the computer, the watch, everything. I know there are a lot of people out there that aren't, and I don't want this to be a political conversation, but I think you'll get what I'm saying when I use this example. Um, Apple has basically a monopoly with me, okay, and that means I feel that the value that I'm getting in terms of feature updates, responsiveness when I have questions, and so on and so forth, is so far ahead of the competition that I don't question the price. Okay, now Apple's done a very good job of keeping their uh, products price competitive, and that so it doesn't mean a monopoly doesn't mean you can charge anything you want, but it also means that competition is not price based; it's value based, and because of that, you are able to invest in your business and able to grow and take care of your people. And I think back in the Great Recession of 2008, when we were in a near depression, um, Apple Computer, which when you think about it, is the premium the premium product in most of the markets that it competes in, the one that you know is the luxury brand, so to speak. Not only did not reduce its prices, but didn't lay people off, and grew and became the most at the time the largest um, company in the world when you look at market capitalization. So again, our Industry 4.0 mindset is focused on value, it's focused on growth, it's focused on investment capabilities. So what does that mean and how do we think about it and where are we moving from? We're moving effectively away from, and this will set up the conversation on the technologies. As we go through the technologies in more detail, the thing we want to think about is that there's this kind of shift in the way that we look at things. Again, Industry 4.0 is more of a cost focus. Okay, it's more like how do we use these technologies to get better at forecasting and predicting, okay, what's coming up, to be able to define contracts and manage them, playing a collaboration, and be able to manage the supply chain when shifts come up. The reorientation of technology and investments in technology is one where we're supporting agility or time, the ability to react quickly to new ideas, to react quickly to new demand patterns, to react quickly to people calling us for help, and moving away from this cost focus to one that's more focused on demand and partnership management. So if we look at forecasting and predicting, it's less about trying to predict, exactly who's going to buy a truck from us in 3 months. Better understand what are the drivers of demand and how can we use that information to influence buying behavior. Data analytics, predictive analytics, AI and machine learning, away from developing a future forecast and more about proactive real-time demand management. I think the simplest way to visualize this is is when looking at Amazon. I'm sure all of you at some point have bought something off of Amazon. And I'm sure you've noticed at times that there are different things like flash sales. Okay, and this is clearly an example of proactive real-time demand management. Okay, they see in their supply chain the ability to, to move product more quickly. They understand they understand what drives your buying behavior, and they're looking to influence you to come in and buy. And so it's less about supply chain management in a sense. So at some level, supply chains are fixed. You have certain partners and certain capabilities in place, and it's more about how to maximize the flow through that supply chain by understanding the drivers of demand better and doing a better job of influence demand. Planning and collaboration. Okay, this is well, this and operation supply chain management are best in the current world are best, I guess, typified by the large scale enterprise resource planning systems. Okay, the idea is, work with SAP or PeopleSoft or any one of the large scale ERP enterprise resource planning systems. Work closely with our partners on specifying how they're going to interact with our system. Feed in the forecast, spit out the contracts, and then manage everything through the system, which really never works. Planning and collaboration, again, the modeling and simulation softwares, ERP and MRP reimagined, digital twin. Again, we move away from a kind of contract, definition and management scenario to one where these tools allow a more of a real-time, interconnected planning and demand management and adjustment kind of capability. Again, think of a P&G, the ability to, instead of just plan out for, weeks, months in advance, how do we, share information and model it in a way that we can understand, who could supply demand to customers and changes within those customers in terms of their buying behaviors and patterns. And finally, operating supply chain management. This is different from planning and collaboration in that this is around capability development. In the current world, the use of cloud or robotic process automation, robotics generally, or blockchain, I think it's many places is misguided. Again, improving on cost efficiency. The real place we want to go to is building a read-react capability. How can we get both ourselves and our suppliers better able to respond to changes in near real-time fashion, and these technologies, when applied correctly, give us this ability to be much more responsive to the market. So, what does it mean? We build learning journeys, not project plans, okay? I'm sure many of you are familiar with the lean startup model. This is really about get to market quickly, get product in the market, learn from it, build off of it. We're trying to build a kind of responsive ecosystem. We're asking fundamental questions. Do we understand reliable lead time? Do we understand the constraints of supply chains? Can we create greater visibility? Okay, and how do we create an ecosystem that is primarily focused on availability? When someone shows up, the product is there. Reliability. If they ask for it, they get it within the specified time frame. And then maybe most importantly, adaptability and agility. If there is changes in the demand market situation, how does this ecosystem take the information in, move goods and services, take cash in, and ensure that there's speed and flow throughout the system. So you'll get this presentation. We won't dive too deeply into each of these technologies. I do want to give you a flavor of how to look at them, and then we'll talk about how this translates into how we try to teach you this so that you can be effective in the marketplace. Artificial intelligence, again, there's a lot here, so I'll just kind of give you the flavor of it over the next 3 to 5 minutes or so. Again, we're moving away from using this ability to analyze information to get better at specifically predicting the future and get into more of a kind of real-time call it proactive ability to take the technology that allows us to understand what's driving it and use that to better manage demand real time. The Internet of Things, if this is a term I think that is probably not as popular as it once was. Many of these terms come and go. It's I don't know if you're familiar with the Gartner hype curve, but an idea comes in, gets hyped up beyond its capability to deliver. People get disillusioned and then they never want to talk about it again. So it eventually comes back. And Internet of Things might be one of those. Internet of Things simply means that most of the products and goods have some sort of tagging capability, some sort of tracking capability, which means that we always know where things are. And unless you're, have this mindset of collaboration, then the opportunity is wasted. The idea behind the ability to track multiple things not only gives you more access to all these things that are out there, but better able to move them through the system, understand where things are getting bottlenecked, and develop better read-react capability to be able to switch between different suppliers or to intervene more proactively to keep things moving through the system. Cloud computing and digital platforms. Again, this is really around the ability to interconnect different organizations, in particular, interconnect the way they generate and share data. Again, if you're in a cost efficiency mindset, then you're probably thinking about, okay, what's the cheapest platforms that we can buy and offer to our ecosystem partners so that we're all saving money. Where the reality is we want to create these ecosystems that in targeted and selective fashions allow faster and more useful sharing of specific information that enables better, again, responsiveness to the market. A blockchain is another technology that I think seems to have had its day, but again is coming back because now the technologies have matured enough to enable real business capabilities. This kind of builds off the cloud computing, in that blockchain is fundamentally a kind of cloud-based technology. But what it does is it kind of breaks the constraints of existing enterprise systems and making them very kind of vendor-based, and is a technology fundamentally and philosophically that has a kind of transparency to it that allows more and more people to participate. It's trust-based in that with the tools and capabilities built into it, people can rely on it, and with a strong implementation of blockchain technology, creates greater capabilities in terms of movement and tracking, both in terms of seeing where things are, but maybe more importantly, sharing that information and using that to facilitate the flow of cash. Most businesses run on cash. In the end, profitability doesn't define whether you're successful or not. It's your cash flow, and supply chains certainly are cash flow based. If you can't move the money from the customer, if you can't move the money from the suppliers, you're not going to succeed as a supply chain or an interconnected group of partners. And blockchain is a key enabling technology in that space. Robotics, I think, are, again, at some level go without saying. Again, the idea here is instead of using them just to drive down cost, use them to drive responsiveness and flow through the system. Digital twins, again, I've seen a lot of digital twin projects that are really just trying to, replicate what exists and look for abilities to make things more efficient, reduce costs if we use digital twins and pair that with simulation philosophies and capabilities. We're constantly looking to see, how do we create a more dynamic, synchronous system that's better able to react to changes in the market and can model where the bottlenecks are and proactively, um, um, at least, mitigate their impact. Advanced analytics and big data. Big data and advanced analytics, and this gets to AI and machine learning, is not about predictive in a sense. I know I have predictive and prescriptive analytics here, but what that really means is not predictive in the sense of long term, but the ability to take the data in and move it. Cybersecurity is everywhere, and then augmented reality and virtual reality allows us to see things. I'd say this, that there are a lot of people who are doing this, um, but there are challenges and roadblocks. And really, this is about how do we get people to work together. And I'd say this, that when you look at what we want to teach you based on what we're learning here, you look at the syllabus or the typical approach, and you look at this in terms of the modules we offer and how that would relate to you and how this could help make you better, better at what you do. The ability in partnership is to be able to explain it to people, what we're doing, and that's really the first place we focused. Then understanding what the new targets are, module 2, module 3, how to design the system. It can be more agile. Module 4, how do we look at partnerships in a different way that allow better capability? And then that gives the foundation for technology, which then gives us the ability to develop these shared learning systems. And everything we do, lectures, discussion forums, case studies, it's all about developing your fluency and your ability to apply these technologies. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, for that. There's so many things that I personally took away as well. Hopefully, everyone who's attending today, there's so many questions that have come in, but hopefully you've learned something new that makes an impact in your professional journey as well. Next, we're going to hear from Carrie, but just before that, I'm going to put my second poll up on your screen. It should be up on your screen now. So, what describes your primary reason for pursuing a master's degree in the US? Is it to build a strong global career, to improve long term career prospects? Is it to gain professional advanced coursework, research, and industry practices? Is it to develop specialized skills aligned with the intended career path? Or is it to access better job opportunities, internships, and professional networks? And lastly, I'm still exploring my goals. I want broader exposure before deciding. So if you can take a quick minute to answer the poll on your screen, it'll help us understand before we have Carrie talk a little bit about what opportunities are available at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering as well. Great. Several of you are responding. Just take a quick minute. What describes best your primary reason for pursuing a master's in the US? We're going to keep the poll open for just another 15 seconds. If you see the question on your screen, you can take a quick second to respond to that. What best describes your primary reason for pursuing a master's in the US? Okay, with that, we're going to close the poll in just 2 seconds. I see a few more responses still coming in. All right, we're going to close the poll now. Results should be on your screen. What's very clear is building a global career to improve long-term career prospects is highly, nearly 50% of people have chosen that. Right behind that is to access better job opportunities, which sort of connects to the same theme. And then lastly is to gain exposure to advanced coursework, research, and industry practices. So thank you all for participating in the poll. Next up, Carrie, we'll come to you. Talk to us a little bit about what opportunities are available when someone's considering the NYU Tandon School of Engineering.
Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Carrie, as Paris has said already. But my name is Carrie, and I'm a senior assistant director here within the graduate admissions office at Tandon. So my primary role is to really help you understand what Tandon's about as a whole, help you understand the application process if you would like to join us here, and really just get you set up between now and the time that you would hopefully join us and arrive on campus. So my office and myself are here to help you. The presentation I'm going to give today, pretty short and sweet. We'll do a quick overview just so that we have plenty of time to answer some questions. I know that we had some great ones that were coming in the chat when Professor Mazzone was speaking, so we'll be sure to do that. Um, but just to talk a little bit about Tandon as a whole. So we're quite a prestigious institution with a long lineage. We were founded in 1854 within New York City. But one thing that's really fascinating about us is that we are also in some ways really new. NYU had taken a step back from having an engineering school for quite some time, and over a decade ago, decided to merge with a former institution and bring about what is now Tandon School of Engineering. I bring that up to let you know that because of that, we're not really as restrictive in regards to departments and programs and things like that. There's a lot more flexibility for us to be a modern institution and be able to meet the needs of students coming into our programs now. As I'm sure you're all aware, technology is constantly changing, and being able to be at the forefront of that technology and be able to be flexible and nimble and be able to coordinate across departments and programs, be able to collaborate in those aspects is really helpful. And we are super proud of the way that we're able to do that moving forward with our research. Um, of course, we have the amazing programs that fall within Tom's department, as well as other programs as well. We have over 31 degree granting programs, and that's across master's and PhD. You can see a few of those different programs and departments highlighted here on the slide. But one thing to keep in mind is that, we are an institution that is constantly growing and supporting our students in the best ways that we can. And one of the ways that we do that is through our career services. I know a lot of you were talking about, going to master's school or going to graduate school and getting a master's degree or a PhD in order for you to advance your career. We understand that that is something that is highly important to a lot of students coming to graduate school. I know when I went to graduate school, it was the same thing. And we have a fantastic career service opportunity for our students. So not only do we have a university-wide career service center called the Wasserman Center that provides student support. We also have a specific career center for Tandon engineering students. And so that's within the Tandon Career Hub. And they offer a wide variety of support systems. But one thing I do like to highlight that they do is something called our Summer Career Academy, which is an online thing that's optional for you, but we highly recommend before you would start your studies in the fall. And they prepare you for being able to take advantage of all of the resources that are available to you on campus. They give you a rundown of what that looks like. So that way, when you come on campus in the fall for the first day of class, you're ready to start. You're ready to, improve your resume, take advantage of interview preparation. You're able to connect to alumni mentors. You're able to do career workshops and events that they host, and all sorts of things. So that way you're not using that or losing time in that first semester. You're able to utilize that to the best of your ability. So then that way you can start applying for internships in the following spring. So you can do those in the summer, and then continue to move your career forward, continue building out that network. So it's a really great resource that I highly recommend students check out. And then I'll just quickly cover some things about the application process and some of our scholarship opportunities and deadlines. So first and foremost, our deadlines you can see here, some of them have passed. So for students that were wanting to study in the spring, unfortunately, that deadline has passed, and I believe all of those applications have closed for spring. For fall, which starts in September of 2026, we do still have applications open for that. The priority deadline for that was December 1st. So you have missed the priority deadline, but that's okay. As long as you get your application in by February 15th for master's degree programs, you'll still be reviewed. For PhDs, some of our PhDs are still taking applications, even though the deadline has passed. But we highly recommend that you, if you are interested in PhD, that you get that application into us and completed as soon as possible. If you are interested in still applying and you have not submitted your application yet, we are offering an application fee waiver for you that have joined today. You can see that on the screen, so you can take a screenshot of that, write that down. It's Tandon with the abbreviation of Brooklyn there, KLYN. And you will pop that into your application prior to hitting submit on it to waive the $90 application fee. In your application, it is an online application. We will require you to provide transcripts of all of your years of study, which includes the names of your coursework and the grades, and as well as a proof of your bachelor's degree or provisional certificate once it's issued. If you're in India, we do take that as well. If you're still studying and you won't be done studying until, say, next spring or summer, that is okay. You provide us with the documentation that you have up until this point. We also require, responses to essay questions that we will prompt you with in the application. We also would like to see a resume, two recommendations from recommenders. We will provide them with a form to fill out and provide back to us. And then also, you will be required to provide English language proficiency tests if you are an international student from most countries abroad, and that does include India. And you can see all of our all of our language requirement minimums on our website. We do take a wide variety of tests, including the standards like TOEFL and IELTS, but also we do take Duolingo, Cambridge, etc. And then for GRE, which is an academic test, that is optional for all of our master's and all of our PhD programs. So that is not something that is required. And then the last thing I will cover before we move on is, of course, scholarship and funding opportunities. So for any student that is admitted into our programming at the master's level, you will be automatically considered for scholarships. So there's nothing else that you need to do, no application that you need to fill out or special indicator that you need to make. You will automatically be reviewed for scholarship. If you are determined to meet our scholarship requirements and are awarded a scholarship, it is based on academic merit. So you'll see here on the slide, we put eligibility. Eligibility starts at a 3.5 or higher, and that's on the US GPA scale. And that's on average. That usually happens for students in order to get an award. And those are partial scholarship awards that range between $3,000 and $12,000 per year, and that is a reduction of our tuition costs. We do have more information on tuition costs and things like that on our website, and I'd be happy to answer additional questions. But for now, that's a quick overview. Hopefully that gave you a little snapshot, and I'm happy to answer additional questions in the Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you, Carrie, for that. And for folks that are attending today, if you have any questions about the school, about the application process, please post on the Q&A section. But also, there is a meetup that is being run by the NYU Tandon School of Engineering in the coming weeks. I'm going to just put those details on the chat here as well. It is being run on the 6th of January at 7 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 1:30 p.m. GMT. So if you are interested in learning more and talking to the admissions team, there are the details. You can pick that up from the chat that we've posted in. But while we do that, there are several questions that have come in already, and Tom, I'll come to you with the first one.
Sure.
I can see the kind of questions that have come. They're really intriguing in terms of how impact is changing and how do candidates really have to evolve their skills as well. So the first question that's come in is someone who's asking, as a student from computer science, what skills are we expected to implement in digital supply? Additionally, do we require data structures and algorithms and coding stuff in this area?
Yeah, great question. Well, certainly technical understanding and technical expertise helps, but I would say that more importantly is the ability to translate and the ability to work with others. So you really want to use this opportunity when you come to us to develop your project management skills or change management skills, but also very importantly, take courses like supply chain management as an example, because your ability to be effective is going to be largely predicated on your ability to create a shared picture. It's not enough to go to someone and say, just give me your requirements. They need this new way of thinking to be able to give you the right kind of requirements. And so the ability to frame and drive the conversation is really what's going to drive your success.
I hope that was a useful insight for the person who asked that question. The next question, Tom, again, this one is for you, comes from Lawrence, who's saying, how can underdeveloped countries or developing countries match up in the global supply chain game?
Well, I think they have a unique opportunity here. The technologies give you access in ways that just didn't exist in the past. And I think if you embrace, let's call it the Industry 4.0 mindset, then at some level you have an advantage because many of these organizations are, existing organizations are kind of constrained by legacy systems and more importantly, legacy thinking. Okay, it makes them very difficult for them to be truly collaborative and truly agile. And so for many developing countries, because you don't have that existing legacy mentality, you can get straight into a kind of Industry 4.0 mindset and really set yourself apart.
Great. No, that's uber helpful. The next question comes from Vandan, and again, Tom, I'll pass this one to you. And Carrie, if there's any thoughts that you'd like to add, please jump on in. Tom, Vandan's asking, in volatile markets, is resilience now more valuable than cost optimization? And how should digital supply chain KPIs reflect this shift, if so?
Yeah, good question. Cost efficiency, obviously being cost efficient is always going to be important. So I don't want to, in my answer, diminish that too much. Resilience, the ability to be able to react to changes is always going to be important. I would say that the most important thing is to be able to define a commitment and keep it. Okay, it's less about having the fastest lead time. It's about having a lead time that you can communicate and that you can keep. It doesn't do you much good again to make promises that you can sometimes keep. It's more important to make promises you can always keep, and that again that requires a different mentality and a different use of these technologies to create that kind of greater visibility into what's really capable, and to make these commitments to partners that are reliable and consistent. That wins the day. Consistency wins the day.
And that's so well put. In today's time where things are changing ever so often, it is the resilience and the ability to navigate difficult situations that probably triumphs from, apart from just being, optimal on cost as such. Carrie, I'll bring you the next question here. This one comes from a candidate, and I hope I'll pronounce his name correctly. Yugona, and Yugona is asking, um, obviously, we talk about a holistic application process, but what is it that you expect from a resume from a candidate that has just graduated from a mechanical engineering background? So, are there tips, and mechanical engineering is just context, but when candidates are applying to you with less or no work experience, what is expected that you want to see in a resume for a successful applicant?
Yeah. So what I would say for students from any background, whether you're mechanical engineering or not, there is certain things that we're looking for. Obviously, Tom, you can, interject if there's specific things that within a department they're looking for a program that you're in. But what I usually recommend to students is we're looking to see what you've done outside of the classroom. We see on your transcripts what you're doing inside the classroom. So even if you haven't had, a job yet, but if you've done an internship, if you've done projects, if you've been a part of groups or clubs, or you've written a paper, you've done something that shows us that you're doing things that are outside of the classroom and can build on to creating a narrative about yourself, about how you could be a good fit into this program, how you can show us something about yourself that gives us a little bit of an advantage of telling us what you could bring to the table to our diverse student population. So overall, what I'm saying is that tell us something about you that we're not going to be seeing on the other aspects of your application, what we're not going to see on your transcripts, what we're not going to hear from your, recommenders. What are these additional things that you're doing outside of the classroom that we can see makes you unique, makes you different, adds to your educational background?
Yeah, I'll just
That's
build
really
on that
good.
quickly.
Thank-
Yeah, the statement of purpose is really important in this respect. To Carrie's point, it kind of knits it all together. As someone who reviews lots of applications and make decisions on what I'm seeing, inspire us. You know, the people who I think have the edge are those that can help us understand what your passion is and how and why you can help you make a difference in the world.
Thank you, Tom. That was very helpful. And generally, as you're applying to top schools like NYU, from just a quick note for the candidates, you want to think about, there are going to be, if not tens, hundreds of candidates applying from the same geography. You want to find something that is unique about you, and not always does it have to be the biggest, showstopper point item. It can be something small that you've contributed to community. It can be something that showcases you as a professional that will become to be in the future as well. So talk about the small things as well that other aspects of your application haven't covered, and sometimes just show it to a friend or a colleague first. Let them see if they see that value as well, because that'll also add confidence as you go into this process too. Tom, I'll bring you the next question here. And this one is probably a little bit more generic, given your industry experience and what you hear of now as well. What do you feel is the demand for supply chain in the Indian market today?
Oh, I'd say it's very high. Industry in particular is, very is still growing as an economy. A lot of, I'll call it hardcore businesses are developing throughout the country, and the difference is you're not developing industries in a kind of 2.0 fashion, which is just simply, again, taking traditional industries and just adding technology on top of it. You're partnering across your country as well as with other, um, you know, in other markets. And I'd say that even if you're not going to be a supply chain professional per se, that supply chains are going to be critical to businesses that you're operating in. Again, even if you're not anywhere near operations and more on the product side, if you don't understand supply chains and how you partner with other people, you're not going to be able to help much. And I think in India in particular, supply chains are going to become even more important over the next several years.
Great. And just in the interest of time, I'll do a little bit of rapid fire. A couple more questions for you, Tom, and then Carrie, I'll come back to you. For folks that have some more questions, please post that into the chat box. We'll try and cover within the next 4 to 5 minutes as many as we can.
Sure.
Tom, question for you, which comes from Gunjan. Can you provide an understanding of starting level roles and key skills that are necessary for entering the supply chain industry?
Sure. Look, I think you're not going to be expected to be a supply chain expert. I think the ability to understand um, data, data analytics is going to be important. I think from two perspectives. One is um, a more refined sense of how markets operate and microsegments within markets, and a more refined sense of supplier capabilities and how to use that to understand who the best people to partner with are or how to manage those partnerships.
Great. The next question here is, how do you how do you think AI will impact employability in supply chain, and who will finally survive at what levels of jobs?
Yeah, so I don't think AI is going to eliminate jobs. I think well, it'll eliminate some jobs probably, but it'll create many more opportunities in other jobs. Again, I think that the fundamental thing to realize here is that we're not trying to, again, predict the future. We're trying to manage it at some level. Okay? Use AI as an intelligent assistant and helping you understand capabilities and demand requirements at a more detailed level, and you'll be very valuable in the businesses that you operate in. I can tell you right now, in our department and across many departments, we're teaching you how to speak the language, so to speak. Okay? If you understand how to translate these philosophies into these technologies, you'll be in a very good position career-wise.
Wonderful. Carrie, talking about careers and international students, I'll bring you the next question. And I'm going to reshuffle this question for the person that's asked it. In the current environment, which seems, at least on the outside, slightly less friendly for international students, can you talk to us a little bit about what that scenario is? How are schools supporting candidates? And what is the real, is the US currently welcoming international students?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question. And I think there's a lot of things in the media right now that can add a lot of confusion and stress for international students. So, first and foremost, the United States is still taking international students. You should not be, convinced that they are no longer doing that. That is incorrect. We are still processing the visa process, the visa application process for international students to come into the US is exactly the same it's always been for years and years and years. Nothing has changed in that regard. Um, so I know that there's a lot swirling around us, but it's important to stay focused on sort of what is actually changing in policy, and there has not been changes in that regard. However, we do understand that there has been a lot of discussions about international students and the political climate here in the United States. And that can make students feel uneasy, and rightly so. So, specifically at NYU, we have an extensive network of support for international students through something called our Office of Global Services, also known as OGS for short. They are one of the most prestigious support services for international students in the country. We advocate on students' behalf in the political sector. We support our students. We have people who are the utmost experts in understanding cutting edge visa processing and anything that would change. So they are there to help you every step of the way and advocate for you to get you here. And then once you're here, we have a lot of student services that are supportive for our international students as they handle that transition. But what I always tell students is this: if you're an international student wanting to come to study to the US, there's really no better place to be than NYU when it comes to supporting international students. You're in an international city that is welcoming for immigrants and people from various backgrounds. So is our institution. We have an extensive support network that is nationally recognized. So if you are going to come during this time, this is the best place to be.
And quickly, we are still at historically low unemployment rates. This is a market that needs employees, and if you're proactive in the U.S. market, I work with literally hundreds of students. You do not have a problem finding a job, and we're very good at helping you to find jobs.
Wonderful. Talking about jobs, Tom, I'll bring you a question, and maybe Carrie, you can chime in on this as well. And after this, we'll do one question, which will be the last one. So for folks that are still asking questions, we appreciate your interest. We, like I mentioned earlier, we have a meetup coming up on the 6th of January with the admissions team. Please feel free to register for that. The link for the same has been posted on the chat as well. Tom, question for you. This comes from Avinash, and he's posted it a few times, so I feel obligated to make sure that we cover this. Um, Someone who's a fresher in this industry, uh, do you suggest that going down the path of building a career in consultancy or building a career in supply chain, in hardcore supply chain, what is, what are the pros and cons of both scenarios? And is there something that you would recommend?
Sure, yeah. So I've come from both backgrounds, both consulting and supply chain. Um, you want to build you want to build foundational experiences. Okay. As you progress in your career, you'll get higher levels of responsibility, and you'll be better able to execute those tasks if you understand how things work. Consulting firms give you exposure to a lot of different industries, which is great, and so that gives you this kind of foundational knowledge. But it can also be somewhat limiting in that you don't really go all the way through when it comes to the changes you're implementing. But again, there's great benefit, and I like consulting. If you go right into supply chain again, I spent most of my early time before I was a consultant at Ernst and Young, basically being an operations analyst. And I can tell you that going deep early helped me later because I had a much better understanding of the nuts and bolts, so to speak, about how things worked. So that even though later on I was never really an deep operations analyst, but I managed large scale change transformations, I really knew how things work. Again, I think both of them can provide that kind of foundational knowledge, but the way I think about it is spend time early in your career, not on the sexy things, which is, all the strategy stuff, but on understanding how things actually work, and that'll really help you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom, for that. Last question for both of you before we wrap up for today. That one tip that you want to leave candidates with as they think about pursuing a career either in supply chain or more broadly thinking about studying in the US.
Right, okay, I'll go first. The most important thing I would say to you is think from the future backwards. So think about where you want to end up, but more importantly, um, think through that a little bit more detailed. Don't think data analyst. Think about what does a data analyst actually do? What do they do on day one? What do they do on day five? What do they do in the first 6 months? What do they do in the first 2 years? Really think about what you'll actually be doing when you show up. That will greatly inform both whether that's the right career for you, but more importantly, your choice of courses, your choices of experiences, better set you up for the future. Don't wait to think about the job market 2 months before you graduate. Think about it 6 months before you even start the program.
Wonderful. Carrie?
Yeah, Tom actually took one that I like to give as well, which is to work backwards. But just feeding off of that a little bit as well is do your research. This participating in something like today's webinar is a really great start. But there's a lot of information out there on our websites, on our application pages, on the department program pages. We list the courses that you're going to be taking. And being able to look through that and finding a program that's a really good fit for you is really important for a master's degree program. I think it's easy to get distracted by, what school you're going to and all of the different rankings that they have and being able to say, I went to this prestigious school. But if it's not providing you the things that you need to get to that ultimate goal of where you want to go with your career, then it's not a great fit for you. So it's important to do that. But also, I always tell students, don't count yourselves out. I think sometimes students say, oh, I don't know if I could go to this institution, but it would be the perfect fit or it would be my dream to go there. Let the faculty decide with your application. Put your best foot forward. Have confidence in yourself. Don't count yourself out. You never know. Graduate school is a completely different experience than undergraduate school. So, encourage you to have a little faith in yourself, put yourself out there, and hopefully, we'll see an application come through.
Wonderful. And my last tip on the same topic is look at this whole process as an investment in yourself. Don't be scared. The future is defined by what you do today. So take a bet on yourself, pursue a program at a school that is of your choice, but also, enjoy this journey as you go through it as well. So with that, thank you both Tom and Carrie for being with us here today. Thank you for all the folks that have joined us. I hope today's session gave you a insight into what this could be like to study at NYU Tandon School of Engineering. And for folks that are still here, we hope to see you next time at another session as well. With that, thank you for today. Have a great rest of the evening. Good day to both of you as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye bye.